We are weaving some animals today, and you'll get to see which animal we're going to be doing. I have one of my animals who is sleeping beside the loom at the moment. I think when she was a puppy, she actually slept under the loom, but she's a little too big to do that nowadays. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start. As you can see, I have a thin yarn. This is actually an 8-2. And in the warp, or excuse me, this is a 10-2. And in the warp is an 8-2. And then the colored, which is brown, is a 3-2. So I'm going to start. I have my pattern treadles that I'm going to follow on a little piece of paper. And it's going to tell me that I'm going to start with 7. Now, if you're familiar with overshot, this is an overshot pattern, or an overshot, I should say pattern overshot technique, where you literally start with, I'm going to tuck that one in and put on the other side. We start with a heavier yarn, and in this case, like I said, a 3-2, and then what we do is we lock it in place with a lighter weight, and in this case, a 10-2. I'm going to do this same treadling according to my paper 5 times. See what kind of animal we're making. October, so there's a particular animal that shows up at the holidays, or at the end of the holiday. So I have 5 of those. Now I've tied it up already. I have my pattern ready. I am now going to go to the next one, which is a 3 of 10. And then a 2. And then I'm going to go to, whoops, I think I did the same one on that one. So let's go back. This is where you weave backwards. Foot missed the number 2. Now I'm on number 2 because it's getting a little wider. And then it's going to get even wider yet. Now you can see, wow, look at all of those that are up. Well, in that case, what we have to do is lock them in place. So I'm going to do that. It says 5 times 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're going to go back. I'm going to go back to the 2, where it's going to be a little bit narrower. 2. And then to the 3. It's nice to have a place to rest your shuttles on when you're doing this. Now we're at 3. Now we're going to go even a little bit narrower to a 4, because now the body's done, and I think you can see what animal is forming. 4. And now we're going to go back and do the head. I need to take a look and see what I'm doing here. 3. 1, 3, and now I'm going to do the actual head, and my notes tell me to do this 4 times, and you can see why we need to lock everything in place. Whoop, I need to make sure I have this tight enough there. There we go. Now the edges, you can do a floating selvage if you would like. I try to basically catch the, sometimes I wrap it around to make sure I catch the end so I can make sure it stays in place. 2, oh, excuse me, that's 3. And we have 1 more for 4. And now we have to end up with the little ears. So I have treadling tied up at the end here to do part of the ear. And then I'm going to go and do one a little bit thinner. It's going to be very hard to see. I'm going to make sure it's not floating up. That's one thing that happens when you have a lot of shafts that are up at one time. They really tend to float. All right, so now I'm done with this brown, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip it and tuck it in over the edge. I usually find the last little one to go back to this shed. I want to be in the same shed that the last shuttle was in. Tuck that in. And now I'm going back to the tabby. I forgot to say the locking is actually the tabby, that what we're doing is locking it in. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to change to the light brown that I was doing for the pattern. Again, we need to tuck that little one in because we're done with the 10-2, the lighter color. And if you hear a little bell in the background, that's my one puppy saying, I want to go out, I want to go out. Well, we're going to finish this and then I'll let her out. I'm going to tuck that in. And in this, I decided that the edge, and they're all the same, since they're all in the same shed 3 times, I'm tucking it in at the edge here to catch it. Otherwise, it would fall out. And now I do a tabby, 1, 2, and I'm going to go again, do that little edge border. This was something I designed, and I sometimes, it's just kind of fun to decide a different kind of border, just as long as they're the same. Then we'll go back to tabby, or plain weave, whichever you call it. And what we'll be doing then, I see a little bit of overlap here, and that'll all squish together. Once it's all machine washed and dried, the edges actually do straighten out a little bit. And sometimes I just tuck a little bit on the bottom, straighten it out ahead of time. And now you can see we have a row of brown cats.